Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we'll be talking about finding limits using algebra, and we're mostly going to be talking about using piecewise functions and basic factoring and stuff like that. So if we look at this first example problem, A asks us to find a limit whenever W is equal to theta with a limit that X is approaching pi negatively. So then theta, or X, right, needs to be less than pi, right? So we see that matches the first one right there. So all we have to do is sub in our numerators, right? Our numbers. So if we put sine of pi, we get that to equal 0. And so answer for A is 0. Awesome. I can restart. Let's go to question B. When W is equal to pi, so we need theta to be equal to pi. Well, in this one right here, again, we see that the equivalent, right? So we have sine, again, of pi, which is equal to 0. Awesome. Question C is asking for the limit of W theta when X is approaching pi positively. So we need pi to be less than theta. We said it here, right? So then cosine of pi is equal to -1. So that's our answer for that, -1. And overall, this is all just basic substitution. So for D, the limit of W theta when X approaches 2 pi negatively. Okay, so theta has to be less than 2 pi. We see that again in the cosine example. So then cosine of 2 pi is equal to 1. And transfer that. Then we can look at letter E. Limit of W theta as X approaches pi. Okay, so for now we need to look at both coming in from the left and coming in from the right directions, right? So if we look at, we need to find when theta is less than pi and when theta is greater than pi. So we use sine of pi first, right, for this first example, and then we use cosine of pi. So this is equal to 0, and this is equal to -1. And since they don't match up, that means that at one point, one limit is at -1, right? And at one limit is at 0. And so the limit together continuously just simply does not exist. Amazing. Letter F, we're looking for the limit of W theta whenever X is approaching 2 pi positively. So we need theta to be greater than 2 pi. We find that here, tangent. So tangent of 2 pi is equal to 0. So I transfer that 0. Letter G asks us for W theta as X approaches 2 pi, again from the left and right directions, left and right. So we look for theta greater than 2 pi and theta less than 2 pi. So we use both cosine of 2 pi and tangent of 2 pi. Cosine of 2 pi is 1, tangent of 2 pi is 0. Since they don't match, this limit does not exist. And finally, h asks us for w at 2 pi. This limit also does not exist. And we know this because while the pi here at sine pi has an equal to sign under the less than symbol, 2 pi has no equal to sign under any of its symbols in either equation, and so we know that in any situation, 2 pi is not given. Moving on. This question asks us for the limit of limit of that equation as x approaches 4, right? So if we use substitution and just put in 4 for the x's, we see right away that in the bottom, 4 minus 4 is going to give us 0. And you cannot divide over 0, any number, right? So we need a factor. If we do this, okay. So if we know we need to factor out an x minus 4 from the bottom, we have to get rid of it from the bottom. So we know we have to factor out an x minus 4 times something over x minus 4. So that these can cancel out eventually. But first we need to get our numbers. So what we can use is 5x minus 1, and we can see that this is equal to this gives us it, right? So that's 5x squared plus negative 1x minus 20x plus 4, which is 5x squared minus 21x plus 4, which matches. So it works, right? The x minus 4 and x minus 4 cancel out, and now we have 5x minus 1, which then we can substitute the 4 for x, and we have 5 times 4 minus 1, which is 19. And that is the answer for that. Moving on to number 23. The limit for that as x approaches 0. Again, 0 squared in the bottom will give you 0, and we cannot do that. And so we need to use algebra to help us solve this, right? And our cosine laws that we know from our algebra classes. So if we separate this a little bit, we find that we can separate this into 1 minus cosine squared of x divided by x times I'm sorry, it's just 1 cosine of x divided by x. There's a property that says that whenever cosine is squared, we can split them to 1 minus cosine of x and 1 plus cosine of x. And we can also split it, and then we have to add the sine of x. Sine of x. So there's 2 x's. So what we can do, we know there's properties for these two. We put x times x, we can just put a 1 right there. This first property here is equal to 0. The second property here is simply just equal to the same 1 plus cosine of x. And this third property here is equal to 1. And anything, we know that anything times 0 is 0. So the answer for this whole equation is 0. I hope this correlates with that, this correlates with that, and this equation correlates with that. I hope this short video helped you guys, and thanks again for watching.